Meeting to order. Thank you all for attending. And the first item on the agenda is that we're going to have a commission report by our Mason County Historical Society Downtown Car Show annual report, and this will be presented to us by Annette McGee. So you have the microphone, if there is one. If there isn't one, just speak loud.
I don't think that, I don't need a microphone. Thank you, Your Honor. It's a pleasure being here today, Commissioners, and it's a double pleasure to report on the car show today, along with the museum. So please have patience. I'm going to be standing in front of you for a few minutes. I've got a lot to report, especially on the museum. The historical car show, as most of you know already, was a huge success this year. Over $11,000 was raised for the Mason County Historical Society. For the Mason County Historical Society, actually a lot of it was raised with the registration of cars and the pie and ice cream social and the raffle. It was a huge success because we had good weather, we had dedicated volunteers, friends of the museum committee, Shelton Public Works Department, Fire District 4 young volunteers, and boy did they do a good job out there in uniform with their little radios. The cooperation of the public, those who registered their entries to show at the event, businesses and individuals who donated to the fundraiser. The only items lacking were more garbage cans, more streets, and police patrol. I'll get into that in just a little minute. The ice cream was furnished by Olympic Mountain Ice Cream Business, and homemade pies that was served by the museum took in over $700 in donations. Not bad for a 4 hours work on just pie and ice cream, and they were all donations. They did not charge. There was a jar there and they put their money in. There were 146 businesses and individuals that donated prizes and cash to help sponsor this show. And that's not shabby when you stop and think, 146 businesses and individuals that donated to the show. And that does not include all the work that goes into it by the committee, which I will introduce when I get done with this. One of the money pot winners even donated his share back to the fundraiser because he said it was for a good cause. More than 400 vehicles were on your street on Railroad Avenue and the side streets for the public to view. They came from all over the Pacific Northwest, and 52 trophies were awarded to the winners, which included 2 long-distance trophies. One traveled 140 miles one way to show his car, and a motorcycle traveled across country 3,200 miles from the state of Georgia. Many traveled between 50 to 100 miles one way, which will be on the report when I get it finished. If the weather is good next year, we need 2 more blocks on Railroad Avenue for parking cars, more garbage cans, and uniformed police. In the past, you've always furnished extra garbage cans for us, and we've had no problem. There wasn't any this year. The State Patrol was there, but we need other local volunteer uniforms on the street. It deters anything that's going on if there's a uniform walking down the street. The American public really loves these old automobiles. Thousands come from all over filling the streets to view these antique, classic and rods, motorcycles, and they participated in the fun and really enjoyed the day. It brought back fond memories and nostalgia of when days were filled with happiness, when there were family outings with mom and dad and grandparents and uncles and aunts. I remember we heard stories. My grandpa used to have a car like that. I remember when I was a kid, my parents had a car like that one. Or I just saw, one guy came running up and said, I just saw a car that looked like the one that we came to Shelton in. We talked to people from Australia, Canada, Georgia, California, and Oregon, along with participants from King, Pierce, Grace Harbor, Clark, Lewis, Skagit, Thurston, Jefferson, and Clallam counties, along with Mason County. Lance Lambert from the Vintage Vehicle TV show was there and taped the event for his TV program to be aired sometime in September. The streets of Shelton will be on TV. He will send us a disc, and we are going to be allowed to reproduce that disc and sell as many copies as we can to the public and to the participants. That's going to be another fundraiser for the Historical Society. Many countless hours, though, of planning, setting up, distributing flyers, work during the show, and cleanup were all volunteered. In addition, in-kind services and dollars were donated. And gasoline mileage, contacting merchant, long-distance telephone calls, distribution of flyers and posters, and other incidental purchases out of the pocket of the committee, which I'm going to take a minute and introduce 2, 3, 4 of the committee here today. Dave Daly, Ray Kimball, Terry Holman, and Charlie Holman. They are part of this committee, and they've been with us for many, many years, which is, well, in fact, Terry and Chuck has been with me from the very first one that we put on. And I can't thank them enough, because these people really work hard to put this show on. As you know, every penny earned goes back to the Historical Society. Therefore, the committee doesn't mind donating their time and out-of-the-pocket money to help this community event be successful, and for bringing people to the downtown streets of Shelton. Many merchants open their doors on that Sunday, and they do a booming business. We, in turn, thank these merchants, spread the word, and patronize the businesses that donate to us. To give you an example, many lunches are purchased at restaurants throughout the year, and businesses are patronized by our committee, along with 12 to 20 of us go out to dinner. We make it a point to go out to dinner once a month at different restaurants that support us. Ray Kimball, chairman of the obtaining judges for the show, said that most of the judges came from King, Pierce, Thurston, Kitsap, Grace Harbor counties, with a few from Mason. And they all want to come back again next year. They love volunteering for such a worthy cause. They got caught up in the nostalgia of the whole event. Comments were positive, and then I'll wind this up. Comments like these. They were written, some were written down, some were just handed to us. The atmosphere of the town was great. Best car show that they have ever attended. Good restaurants. Keep doing more of the same. We had a great time. It was fun. We'll be back again next year. Now, you can't go wrong on comments like that. The Historical Society would like to thank all that were involved in this, including the city of Shelton, and we certainly appreciate your support in anything that you can do to help us on the car. I don't know who it goes to there, but I'll give you a copy of pretty much what I supported on with my ad-libbing a little bit. Do you have any questions?
Just comments, especially from me. I've kind of helped donate to this a little bit myself over the years, and the little donation that I give is the return is immense. And so the work you guys do, the volunteer hours, I see you out at those dinners. Sometimes I say, hi, how you doing, you know, and I just think volunteerism in itself, in all these activities, it really makes the city strong, and you guys are got to be at the top of the list. So I just commend you and your volunteers for what you've done. It's a great event, and I think Shelton would really miss it if it ever stopped. So just from me, I think it's fantastic.
Thank you, Yona. The committee appreciates that. There's anywhere from 12 to 16 of us that meet once a month to make sure everything goes well. And we have a lot of fun, too, doing this. And we get along. That's what's neat. Don't we?
My comment is I've been entering it every year for 7 years now, and I've yet to win a prize. So I want to suggest a new category. The shortest distance. I only live 2 blocks.
Why don't you talk to the mayor? Maybe the mayor will give you his trophy. The mayor's got a trophy.
There you go.
Thank you.
And I would just say that I think it's pretty amazing that it used to be when I met people from outside our area, from Thurston or Seattle or somewhere, they all knew Mason County by Oyster Fest. And now I keep hearing as well, oh, you people have the great car show. So it's working, and you're doing a really good thing for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may, I would like to ask Mr. Daly and Mr. Kimball if they have anything to say, because they were really highly involved in this from the word go. If you just, just a couple minutes.
Sure,
if you would,
absolutely,
please.
no.
No, I just left him a couple pictures of the crowd, is all.
Okay.
I don't know, Dave, you want to add?
I'm just kind of the unofficial treasurer of the car show committee, and I'm actually the treasurer of the Historical Society as well. And I wanted to add that while we netted $11,000 to the Historical Society, we purchased out of the money that we raised, which was probably closer to $14,000 or $15,000. We paid for all of the flyers that went out. We paid for the advertising. We hired Lance Lambert to come in and tape the show for us. And so we raised quite a bit of money, and a lot of it, the majority of it, went back to the car show. And it's all volunteered by businesses and individuals in this community. So we appreciate the support, and we appreciate your support as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you very
Dave.
much.
Thank you, guys. And
Am I on again?
You're on if you want to be on.
I just soon, I get it over with if I could.
Yep.
It's a long one, and I need to let you know though what's happening down at the museum. And since Mr. Daly's involved in that, and Mr. Kimball, and Mr. Holman, he's been one of the volunteers too. It's really neat when you can call your committee and ask them to do something else. And I'll put on my other hat now, and as president of the Historical Society, I want to give you the quarterly report that's due today. Thank you again for your contribution and your continuing support to the Mason County Historical Society. We have been extremely busy the past few months. As you know, the museum director resigned just before the first quarter report to you was due, and Billy came in and gave you that. And to complicate matters more, our Billy, a former director, Billy Howard, who was filling in on a part-time basis until we hired a new director, fell and ended up with a concussion and is in the nursing home. We're all sorry about that. I saw her this morning. She's hoping to get out of there and go to Maple Land. But that's all I can tell you at this point. We thank God, though, for volunteers and our dedicated part-time staff down there. We have been working hard to complete the remodeling of the museum inside, since a lot of it was left undone. Thanks to our staff and volunteers, we finally are planning an open house in September to show off our remodeling of the inside of the museum. And you will get a special invitation, commissioners, to that. We'd love to have you there. However, we invite you to drop in anytime and see what's happened, because you'll be surprised when you walk through those doors. It finally looks like a museum again. During the past 3 months, the board of directors, the volunteers, and staff led by Charles Fisher, one of our staff, a part-time staff persons over there, have managed to finish the inside painting, install beautiful new display counters and work counters, bookcases, railing for hanging of the historical pictures around the walls, had installed special UV blinds to block sunlight which on the artifacts, which has been needed for ages. Put up a new sign on Railroad Avenue, and I think you've all seen the sign, thanks to Forrest Cooper of Cooper Studios. Break in a new director, apply for 2 grants, rearrange and put up new displays. Now that's just part of it. That's been what's been happening. We cleaned up the mess that the museum was in due to the remodeling. Are presently getting quotes for a special lighting system project and carried out the day-to-day tasks of the museum. I want to bring this all up because in looking at the other reports, I don't know if you really know what the heck goes on down there, down day-to-day. This includes, but it's not limited to, researching for group and individual requests, hosting school class tours of the museum, put out a newsletter monthly, sell books, answer questions, hold programs once a month, we put on the car show, pie and ice cream social fundraiser, paid the bills, and carry out the goal of the Historical Society, which you all know is to collect, preserve, and publish the history of Mason County. One program hosted by Barb and Del Griffey in Allen was a visit to the Allen Historical Church and Historical Sergeant's Oyster House. Because there was a foul-up in the date, we're going to reschedule that sometime next year, because that was an interesting tour. A potluck picnic is going to be held, and you have an invitation from me right now at Ed McAvinney's Logger Museum at 4401 West Dayton Airport Road. 4401 West Dayton Airport Road. And it's been scheduled for August 9th from noon to 3. You definitely are all invited. Plans are also being made to go ahead and go to the Squaxin Museum and have a coordination between the Squaxin director and our director down here, and that will happen probably sometime in October. As you know from the former report, the car show was a success, and the list of makers and bakers of those pies that were donated are really in demand. We get telephone calls saying, "Is this the car show with the pie and ice cream?" And yes, it is. Okay, I'll be there. So, I mean, and you, from the report I just gave you, you know they made a lot of money there. After 3 months without a director, we finally hired one. She couldn't be here today. I was hoping that she could be here, but she couldn't be here today. I believe Leslie Ann has met her. Her name is Kristen Fabry. She started on July 15th and is an exciting young lady that has had a background on analytical research and management and is looking forward to actively putting her experience to work in what we do in the Historical Society. She is presently trying to learn the day-by-day procedures and working on a policy for the museum, and will soon be tackling an inventory. She has walked into this job cold with no written policy from the former director. There's another longtime resident of Mason County who grew up in Snoqualmie Valley and is a graduate of Irene S. Reed High School, has volunteered to do our monthly newsletter, while Billy Howard is recuperating. Billy's shoes will be hard to fill, as you well know, but if anyone can do it, Jeannie Salee Fisher can do the job. We thank Jeannie for her volunteering. We participated this past quarter in the Matlock Old Timers Fair on May 2nd and 3rd, or as Billy Howard calls it, a blast from the past. And if you haven't been there, that's exactly what it is. You need to go out to Matlock when they have that May program. It's 2 days, but during these 2 days, we sold a lot of books from our local authors. The most popular books this year, every year there's different popular books, but logging books are generally the most popular out in the Matlock area. And the most popular this year were Mike Fredson's new book on logging in Mason County, 1946 to 1985, and the books about John Torno. John Torno is in great demand out there. We also have a new book for sale in the museum called Avoiding the Sudden Stop. It is a book about guiding Rainier and other Northwest mountain adventures in the 60s, written by George Houston. Some of the old timers around here will remember the name George Houston. George's father was a Shelton attorney for a number of years. He grew up here in Shelton, and not the attorney, but young George grew up in Shelton and graduated from Irene S. High School in 1966, and he's an accomplished mountain climber. It's a good book. It sells for $15. He's a former special agent for the FBI who spent 22 years specializing in foreign counterintelligence and intellectual property crimes. He is scheduled for a book signing in September, so if you're interested, it'd be a good time to go down there. The building committee from the Historical Society is continuing to look for land to build a heritage museum, or a building that could be used for a heritage museum that could actually display all of our artifacts that have been donated to the Historical Society. It is not right that we do not have room to display them all. They're in storage, and we have to own our own land before we can apply for grants to build a building to do this, and we're constantly looking and doing research. In May, a total of 193 students and 16 teachers from our schools were led on guided tours of the museum. 20 visitors this quarter came from other countries: Australia, Quebec, Canada, British Columbia, several from different parts of British Columbia, Toronto, Canada, Montreal, Canada, England, and Germany. So you could say Australia, Canada, England, and Germany. 98 came from other states, which included Kentucky, Florida, Oregon, Arkansas, Nevada, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Georgia, Vermont, Montana, Colorado, and Idaho. Not bad. We're drawing people from all over the United States. Some of the comments that they made, one was awesome, nice learning experience, beautiful and a lot of amazing pieces, interesting, nice place, very helpful with family research, impressive collection of daily life of the past, which is very important. Now, I'd like to add to that paragraph that I was talking about, looking for land, just for a minute, and I don't know how many of you know this. We have artifacts stored all over. We have a rental storage unit west of Shelton that's full. We have artifacts from our museum that we were kicked out of at the fairgrounds is out in a big or large container out at MCRA. We have artifacts stored in the old Rainier Mill, in storage at St. David's Parish Hall, which will probably have to be moved if St. David sells it. I understand it's on the block to be sold. I'm filling you in on all this because I didn't see it in any of the previous reports. I won't do that in the future. If I'm around, I'll just give you the quarterly report. But you've got a combination at this point. Again, we thank you for your support. We appreciate the cooperation of the city, and thank you.
Thank you very much, and that's a wonderful report. Any other questions or comments?
Now you know where all of our stuff is. We're getting comments. The people say, where is the power saw that I donated?
Oh, yeah.
We don't know, it's in storage.
Absolutely.
We don't have room to store it.
No?
And did I give you one? It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It really is. We've got a beautiful, I think we've done a beautiful job down here. And I want you to come down and see it, all of you.
I will say that I was with one of the the classes that toured in May with my granddaughter's 3rd grade class. George did an awesome job and the kids all loved it. It was great.
I stop in at least once every 2 weeks and chat with Jan, so I watched the progress over the last year quite closely. It's really nice. Great job.
Thank you very much. And you know, we've got you probably don't know it yet, because I just learned this morning, we've got a meeting scheduled with Vicki coming up to work on the contract that we have, and it's coming up soon. So that date is on the calendar.
Thank you very much, Annette. Appreciate it.
Now I'll shut up.
There you go.
Good report.
Next is our commission weekly reports, and Commissioner Moore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Well, unless I have just missed something, I don't have any further scheduled meetings this week other than the one we had this morning with the county. And so I guess I can be caught off guard.
Yeah, things happen.
Things happen.
Commissioner Olson?
Tomorrow I have a Mason County Board of Health meeting, and then on Wednesday, I think a lot of you know Tom Davis is the head of the Veterans Mentor Program, and I'm really happy to say he's asked me as a veteran to participate in that, and I get to meet my first veteran to mentor on Wednesday, so I'm looking forward to that. Great programs going on. So that's my report.
And I also don't have any other future or any other extra meetings this week. And so that completes our commission weekly reports. There's a general public comment period now, and then there's one a little later in the meeting. And so we have some people that may have signed in, and so I'll say your name. If you want to speak now, that would be fine. If you want to wait until later, that's okay too. So it looks like Marilyn.
I'd like to speak later, please.
Very good. And then Gail Strauss.
I'd like to also speak later.
All right. Okay, so moving on, we have the consent agenda. Are we ready for a reading of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Would you please have one? Thank you.
Consent agenda, resolution number 1083-0715. A resolution of the City of Shelton amending resolution number 1082-0615, the city fee schedule, revising fees and adopting new fees. Thurston County Interlocal Services Agreement, authorize the mayor to sign.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The agenda passes. Under old business, we have a plan review services contract that will be presented to us by Mr. Steve Goins.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. The item we briefed on this, I think about 3 meetings ago. We provided an overview that included a proposal from Code Pros to provide building additional services, which would include plan review and building inspection services. The consideration at the time was to put this on consent, but what we discovered in the meantime was we needed to draft up a contract. So what you have before you is a contract that essentially reflects the same scope of work that we described in the briefing. It's just in contract language. The exhibits, in fact, are really mirror some of the features that we previously described. The only other thing I think I can add to this is there was a discussion during the briefing presentation about coming back and providing the commission with an update as to how this is going and giving some information. I think with the idea that we want to carefully consider whether we want to extend the service or the timing of that. So we will include a update on this maybe 6 months in and toward the end, and consider the timing for either renewing the contract or not. But this contract is for 1 year with the ability to extend it as long as both parties are agreeing to that. Other than that, the language is identical to the items we previously briefed on.
All right. Questions or comments?
The other thing I was wondering, and excuse me if I didn't catch it in there, but is there a provision of how long he's going to have someone on premises? Was there any minimum requirement on that?
I don't know if that was specifically written into this. What we discussed verbally was about 4 hours a day.
4 hours a day, every day, essentially.
Yeah.
All right.
And that'll be kind of communicated on the website maybe somehow or another, or maybe flyers at lumbermen so that the builders and people that need that will know that.
Yeah, I think it would be good to have a way to let the whole community know when that service is available. That may depend on the person's schedule that's coming on board. And Mike may adjust his schedule for when he's coming. We like to maintain the afternoon inspection schedule we currently have. People are pretty accustomed to that. But yeah, we can work to get the word out once we finalize those details.
That's all I have.
All right. I think that we are in agreement to take staff's request to approve the contract with Code Pros, authorizing the mayor to sign when returns from the contractor. Thank you very much. Next item under old business is the Shelton Creek naming recommendation, and that will be presented to us by our Parks and Recreation Director, Mark Ziegler.
Thank you, Your Honor, Commissioners. Following up from the June 29th study session, where I originally brought you a recommendation for naming of the Shelton Creek Trail that was completed by the Choice High School CTE class. With your comments and recommendations, we went back to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee on July 13th and discussed some more options to find a find a name that would resonate with the community and keeping Shelton Creek prominent, as it's been commonly referred to over the years, as well as recognizing Teresa Johnson as a member of that choice school and her dedication to the students and the walking program that she provided through classes at school. There's a sample sign there in your packet indicating the recommendation at this point would be to name that the Shelton Creek Community Trail, and with the dedication to Teresa Johnson indicated at the top of that sign, recognizing her, as well as at the bottom of the sign recognizing all the individuals and groups that were instrumental in making this trail come to a reality here with efforts and donations.
Questions or comments?
I know that we had discussed the pros and cons and how to combine the two names of the trail. I think this is a good fit. I know that when we had talked before, Commissioner Olson had been in favor of the first proposal that we had gotten. And I would like to know, I guess, if the commission has any further thoughts on that. And also, I don't know, I think we had some comment from the public, but I don't know if this is the time for that.
So,
I had one question before we go to the public, Mark. Did the advisory board go back to the Choice High School teacher and students and ask them their opinion
No, I just,
on what we kind of discussed?
I just let John know that this is the direction that was going,
Okay.
that we were going, and
Was he getting
we were
feedback?
reassessing that. He didn't respond to me other than after the fact, other than our initial conversation, that he was okay with this recommendation.
we discussed it, and I think that they have a name, and you know, and so, I mean, I feel comfortable probably in accepting this. If we want to think about it farther, we probably can do that. So I guess I would be, I'm looking for a concurrence here on.
No, I still stand by what I said. It's not a huge deal to beat it back and forth too much, but I just think that, you know, what those kids did was incredible. You know, to take on the commitment and the ingenuity and the level of integrity and leadership they showed, that I just would be in favor of rewarding them. And if they felt that they wanted to name it, I would be in full support of that.
Okay. Would a letter to the students telling them exactly what we did and how we came to that conclusion and ask for their opinion on that, would that be?
Well, that's why I asked Mark
what
if there was any feedback from the advisory, you know.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're out of school right now. Some of them have moved on, graduated or whatnot, so
Right.
they're not in a common area where that discussion can take place until possibly the school year starts again, and then who knows how many of those students that were involved in this project will be in the same place at the same time. So we're a little limited about discussing that with all of them, but certainly the instructor is available to discuss that.
Yeah, I just think it's so rare these days that we get such a youth program going like that, that, you know, I'd like to incentivize that, and if this is a little thing we could do, but I don't think it's enough of an issue to make it controversial, you know, how we do this. But I just feel strongly about that. I'd like them to have a voice in this.
The one more comment I would like to add is we don't have permanent signage up at the sites at this point, so that's really the only thing that I think creates a pressing issue now, is getting the permanent signage up, having some rules and regulations up there in place, having the map that indicates the trail and that information. And we're waiting on this to move forward with that. We're putting up these signs as you see them now, without the naming information. So, but they're paper, you know, they get wet and they blow off in the wind and things like that. So we would like to move forward with that at some point in the future.
Okay, I after doing more research and talking to a lot more people about this, I think either way is fine. I think it gets the message across, but I would be in favor of doing the original Teresa Johnson Community Trail, as long as the signage also includes Shelton Creek Trail in parentheses. I think that's the way that they've done, you know, a lot of newly named areas. They've honored the traditional common name as well. And so, like, I guess I feel like Commissioner Olson, I don't want it to be a controversial issue, but I would feel comfortable doing that, whereas before I think I said I wouldn't. So.
Well, we have the right and the privilege of making this decision. We didn't, I don't think, officially vote and do a motion. So if two commissioners want to change the name at this point, I would probably say that would be fine. I don't see any administration problem with that. Do you see a problem with that, Mark? You haven't printed up, you haven't gone and ordered $10,000 worth of signs?
No, we won't do that.
So
when it is
if one of the commissioners that wanted to change this made a motion,
There's
then
some
we
public
could.
that wanted to talk on this item.
Okay? So why don't we do this, because we are in the deciding mode here. So why don't we, Marilyn, if you want to come up and talk about this issue, that would be fine.
Marilyn Vogler, 420 East Poplar, and I greatly appreciate your comments, and particularly Tracy, Commissioner Moore, your willingness to go back to the original. I would like to support the original recommendation of the committee. We don't, after all, have the Goldsboro Creek Trail dedicated to William H. Neeland. And we don't have the baseball parks dedicated to someone of the Callanan family, or the Capitol Hill Park dedicated to Art Johnson. Those parks were all named after people that made them possible. And when Mary Ann Murray and B.J. Beatty donated land that became Catalyst Park, we named it as they asked for it to be named. When, and I don't know much of the history of this, but when the Ravenna Trail was turned into an official park, I believe it was named as the people who had a big part in that requested, after someone told me, a women's financial group. And so we do have a pattern of naming parks. Naming a park, and it's much different to name a park after someone than to dedicate it to, as you can tell just by looking at the type in the briefing cover that came up. The Shelton Creek Trail was capital letters, and the dedicated to was in capital lowercase. There is a big difference. And every time we visit a park named after a person, we're reminded of how valuable individual contributions are to the city, whether it's contribution of land or time or money, and those are important things to remind us of. So I sincerely hope you go in the direction you're leaning at this point and name it the Teresa Johnson Community Trail. Thank you.
Thank you. Gail, did you want to speak on this issue?
Yes, I did. Unlike some people in this room, I knew Teresa Johnson personally, and I would like to tell you what a humble person she was, and she would be amazed to be receiving this kind of recognition and honor. Teresa was a paraeducator for Shelton School District for many years. Paraeducator is not a certificated teacher. These are often people who work at a very low wage and do it because they have a strong dedication to the students they work with. Teresa was an exceptional person and a very strong mentor for years to the children, well, children, I should say youth, that were at Choice High School. I would really strongly recommend that. I would love to see the trail called the Teresa Johnson Community Trail. I do have a suggestion that I know that people recognize it as the Shelton Creek Trail, and you might not want to make it this wordy, but maybe a compromise would be the Teresa Johnson Community Trail at Shelton Creek. And I know that Teresa's family would be very honored. As I said again, she was a very humble person that would never have expected this. It would really honor the work that those students put in. And those the majority of students that go to choice, for many of them, it's their last chance. And for them to be recognized for the hard work they did on something that really benefits the community would say a lot to them and probably would inspire them to continue to do things that benefited the whole city.
Thank you for your comments. All right, so.
One more point I'd like to add, and what Gail said, is that because of also what they did at that trail, it inspired Mason County Health Department to create an award for that very thing, and I agree. I think that anything we can do for at-risk youth to keep them engaged and
This would be
motivated,
the, Toby, this is the sheet that you want.
I think is
Okay.
a admirable thing to do.
Sure, I'm not here to talk people out of anything, so if this is the direction that we want to go, Toby, you want to talk about this issue? Okay.
Okay.
So, I don't know if we need a motion, or if
I'm
we
ready
just want to
make a
concur
motion.
this.
I'm ready. I don't know, I guess maybe I'm not. I move that the commission approve the naming of the Shelton Creek Trail, the Teresa Johnson Community Trail with Shelton Creek Trail in parentheses underneath that name.
Second that.
There's a motion and a second, and all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? The motion passes. That's the new name of the trail. Thank you very much for your input.
Mayor,
Yes.
could I ask you, we approved the code contract, but we did not get a motion on that. Could we have a motion on
We certainly could. Yeah, and it says,
item 100?
it does say request a motion on my fine print too, so. Okay, so we did a motion on this. We're going to go back to your issue, young man, and what we're going to do is I would request a motion on the item that Steve talked about on plan review and services contract with Code Pros. So we need a motion on that.
I move that we approve the plan review and services contract with Code Pros.
I second that motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Very good. Moving into new business, we have an item before us from the Human Services Committee concerning temporary public restrooms. And this will be presented to us again by our Economic Development Director, Steve Goins.
Thank you again, Mayor and Commissioners. The Human Services Committee has been working on several projects, and included in that is this proposal before you today for providing restrooms downtown. In kind of a larger perspective, the proposal considers creating permanent restroom facilities sort of in a phased approach. The initial phase is a pilot that will establish restrooms downtown that would be provided for a short period of time. Some analysis and consideration could be done as to how well those are received, how well they're maintained, where service demands are more expected based on the outcomes, and sort of adjust their program once they have a chance to analyze that data a little bit, to provide one or more restrooms downtown, again on an interim basis, but as an ongoing facility until we can secure funding for a permanent restroom, whether that's a brick and mortar facility or something along the lines of what Portland has their Lou facilities downtown. That would be a permanent solution. In this case, the pilot is describing some detail in the attached project plan, but just to kind of give you an overview of that, the three locations that were selected, and that was after a fair amount of discussion, was at Brewer Park, the eastern side of our gravel parking lot here at the Civic Center, and in the vicinity of the pump station on Front Street. Those would be there for 3 to 4 months, depending on the funding that's secured. And as I stated, the expectation would be that we could adjust the program with some interim facilities, and that's part of this request, is to generate support for the city helping facilitate that second interim phase. The Human Services Committee will be securing the funding for the pilot and anticipate starting that probably in the September timeframe. And I hope you took some time to read some of the details, and the program goes into a little more detail of what some of the objectives are for this. But the committee is represented here, and we're excited about helping facilitate and implement some of the elements of the party task force report, which this included as one of those items. I don't know if you have any questions about this proposal, but we thought we'd field those.
Questions or comments?
I would just like to say something related to this, that I am so appalled by. I attended the Music in the Park before last, and someone had purposely stuffed up the women's restroom with toilet paper. And so just this little caveat here is, yes, I'm in favor of doing this, and I am really in favor of people encouraging each other not to vandalize things, not to vandalize their restrooms. It's disgusting, and they should know better, and they should train their kids better. So that's it.
Questions or comments?
No, I fully support this. I think that it's long overdue, and I got to witness it firsthand this weekend, right on Railroad Avenue, broad daylight. So it's like, we need to do something about it. I think it's very detrimental to public health and safety, and hopefully the people who are in need of these will respect them, and that this program is successful, so that because I've already spoken in favor of actually putting on a budget item for next year. So I hope it goes well, and I'm in full support of it. I think they're great locations. I know everybody's not going to be happy with all the locations, but I think the committee did a great job of researching out areas and putting pretty strategically placed.
I read through this twice, and I looked at and I've been thinking about this. And first, I would like to thank the committee for the effort there. I mean, it's a noble cause to want to make your city a better place, and I think that when we do this, but we have to hear all the opinions and look at all the pros and cons, and maybe sometimes we kind of can change our mind and find another alternative that might be better in this process. The one issue that Mike talked about is somebody doing something in broad daylight. Well, in broad daylight, they've got 5 or 6 public restrooms all open to them, brick and mortars right there. So adding porta potties for the 2 o'clock in the morning crowd wouldn't have helped that situation. I think it's a good thing. I think the location on the front street down by the pump station down there, I think it's on First Street. I think that's a good location. We had quite a bit of complaints with the retailers around Brewer Park about having a porta potty stuck right there, and then they talked about putting a blind around it maybe or something. I'm not opposed to that location. The one on 4th, Coda Street, 4th and 5th Streets in the parking lot, where exactly in the parking lot were you thinking about placing that?
The portion of the parking lot that's butts 4th Street on the far eastern end. Not the port that's next to the Civic Center, but the opposite end.
So it's not right across the church, like when you come out, you can go right into it. I mean, it would be back on the, a little farther.
I think that what's on the other side there is the parking lot of the old PUD admin building on that side.
Okay. What is this one behind the former Pentorian Dry Cleaning? Is that the same one? It said or, I see an or.
There was consideration in a number of other locations downtown that were considered. The Pentorium was one that they studied and considered for a while. They didn't ultimately receive approval from the property owner to place it there. I think the report discussed, there was some consideration of making sure that there was some distances apart to try to make them more convenient and make it more sensible in terms of where you are in downtown and how close you can be to.
You want practical.
You want it practical.
Okay, now, just carrying it on over to the funding part of this, I don't see any problem with raising the amount of money for the trial period. I'm sure the community could easily raise that $1,200. But at that point, the ultimate responsibility of locating ongoing funding rests upon the city, and would this then become a under the Metropolitan's Park. Are you involved with this, the restrooms? That would not be anything you would be involved with. So what happens is we have a 3-month trial period or so, and then the funding would be from the city, the taxpayers in the city would be to continue funding it. This group would set up the funding and raise funding for the trial period. I guess if it's a trial period, then we could evaluate and see what we need to go with from there. Well, I think having adequate restrooms at 2 o'clock in the morning for people who don't have one is a good thing. And I think that you've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I think that this commission should go forward and support the trial period on this and see how it comes from that. And hopefully vandalism will not be a part of that. And hopefully that in the location of these, that we take into consideration neighbors and also retailers when we're putting these in. So that's my comments on this. If there's any other comments about this subject, you want to talk on this, Toby? Okay, why don't you come on up?
Toby Kevin, 709 Terrace View Drive, and I'm also associated with the committee in question that made the recommendation, as is Marilyn. I just wanted to add to what Steve said, reflecting on the history, how all this came about. Roughly 2 years ago, I stood in front of this group with a rather challenging letter saying we got issues with, let's say, street people in need. And the issues have been raised by those same aforementioned folks. It's merchants and people who live downtown. And among the complaints that got us moving were outdoor toilet facilities, that is, people using my property or alleys for that. From that grew the Poverty Task Force, and from the Poverty Task Force grew this Social Services Committee. So clearly the commission supports it. I wanted to make sure everybody remembered that what got this whole larger movement started was exactly this. I think that's all I have to say, unless there are questions.
Sounds good. Gail, oh, you want to talk again about this?
I just want to thank you for having this as something that you're bringing forward, because it is very needed. It's I work with a lot of homeless families and youth, and it's something that we should be providing, not only for their convenience, but for the beautification of the city. I mean, I think that everyone's in agreement that we would rather have people using proper facilities than people's yards and that kind of stuff. So I think that the 3 locations are really good trial locations, and hopefully people will respect the facilities. Working with young children and school-age children, sometimes it's not always the adults that are vandalizing, but children up to naughty business. So thank you for considering it, and I'm really glad to see that the city is considering the needs of how we can accommodate people that are unfortunate, but also preserve how we want to present the city.
Great, thank you very much for your comments. One other little comment I had written down on here is that if in the committee's discussions on this, there are facilities with actually running water, I mean, in like Neelan Park, for example. And I think one time they used to have it open nights and the vandals got to it and they didn't do it anymore, but it sure would be a lot nicer to walk into a brick and mortar, have water, and that, but it's farther out of the downtown corridor. But, so I don't know where the city is really on that, but it might not be the end of, it might be a possible discussion to that one, and I don't think there is one in any of the other parks downtown with public restrooms like that, but it might be open that, might be that the city might consider back to the 24 hours opening on those. I even threw up a little idea that if you had a problem with problem people, that you literally have at nighttime, it would be a locking system, and that the community would have their keys and they could, well, I don't know, I'm just throwing this up as maybe they could considered that their own personal laboratory facilities, and that the bad people that didn't want to smash them up wouldn't get the key, maybe it would encourage them to get better. But I think in your thinking about this, and maybe the city, this is not even a possibility, but rather than thinking about building brick and mortar, we have brick and mortar, and we just have to actually open them up at night with probably some cameras outside to see who's coming and going or something, and monitor it if there's a problem with that. So, I don't know, I'm open to approve this, and it looks like you were just looking for our suggestions at this point anyway. So, is that?
Primarily, the committee was looking for support for the concept, and again, it was the phased approach, I think, was part of that discussion. I should add, since we're still in discussions here, there was another angle in pursuing this as something that was needed downtown. And in the downtown visioning process, having restrooms downtown to facilitate events like the car show that we just heard about and others was seen as an important element to maybe increasing the ability for downtown to host events like that, for being more friendly for tourists. So there was a lot of other reasons that this was a good idea that have came through various discussions with the community over time.
I think we agree, so, okay, we concur. So what else do they want from us?
I think they want to proceed.
Go on, do the job.
We didn't want to put in a lot of work raising money only to have you say, oh, this is a bad idea.
So, Vicki, look, we don't need a motion to approve them setting up this is something we talked about, don't we? Do we need a motion on the temporary, because they're gonna go get money and we have to then, this is a done deal. They're gonna set it up in those spots for 3 months.
And
we don't need
part
a
of
motion on
that fundraising was a consideration whether the commission was supportive of this, and
We are.
your discussion has concluded that for their purposes.
All right.
Would sure like to see the word support or endorse. That is, this is not our individual project. This is a project we've undertaken on behalf of the city, so make no mistake that you three are on board with it.
Absolutely.
So when they tip them over, it's the city they come after, all right. Well, I think we made that commitment, so you got that from us.
I would imagine that there will be some reports coming forward as the fundraising.
Sure, let's hope that that
Hear
it
about
works
it.
out, and that if there's changes, that we can all do them, and it's for the betterment of all too, so. Okay, is our acting city administrator, Vicki Look, this week. Did you have anything on the administration side of this?
I do not.
Okay, and there is that general public comment. Anyone else from the public would like to speak? We can do that. Administration report. Oh,
Sorry,
she has
I should have
something. Yes.
turned that over to Steve.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
sorry.
yes, yes, well, I see that too. Okay, there is a
Steve's
report here.
report.
Steve's report.
Thank you.
Blame it on Steve.
We were requested to provide a letter to Simpson. As you're aware, they have retained some of their rail assets in town, and there's been a discussion about whether those assets could benefit the city in some capacity, in particular the roundhouse, the rail corridor, and some of the spur and siding lines. And they were, I think, wanting to move forward with a process where we could discuss acquiring these assets. So we provided a letter that basically states that, as well as some provisions that ensure that as we move forward, if we receive some sort of federal grant or funding, that we've followed proper procedures in acquiring those assets. So this rather lengthy letter basically is just conferring our intent to move forward with those acquisitions. So we were requesting in the interest of time, if the commission was inclined to sign and forward this letter today, and just to keep that process and that discussion moving.
I have seen the letter, I read the letter, and I approved the letter, and I would sign it today.
Yeah, me too, I'm on board.
Yes, I'm
You
on
too?
board
Or you
as
could say
well.
no, It was
No,
your letter.
it was, yeah.
But you hesitated.
Tracy's going,
You're
yay.
smiling.
I am.
All right, so we'll sign that at a later date.
I
Or
have one,
later.
maybe Vicki has one too.
Okay, all right,
Yours looks nicer than mine.
all right. Thank you. Now back to the general public comment period. If anybody else, if no one else is signed in, we can move into administration final touches. Yes, Michael.
We have a briefing on a resolution for a right-of-way vacation that we'll be bringing forward next Monday. Right-of-way vacation's been in place for quite a while. The paperwork finally got completed a couple weeks ago, so we're ready to move forward on it.
Where are they going? Where are they going? They're going on vacation?
No.
Just kidding. All right, any other administration final touches? Seeing none, our next meeting will be a regular meeting on August 3rd at 6 p.m. here in the Civic Center. This meeting is adjourned.